Welcome to Does It Matter by Brainy Ballers, where we dissect the game with cutting-edge analytics to give you the upper hand. We analyze everything from hand sizes to average depth of targets to uncover hidden trends that no one else sees. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to data-driven domination. Because here at Brainy Ballers, we don't just watch the game, we understand it. So get ready, it's podcast time.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into, well, one of those questions that always comes up in sports, right? Especially if you're into fantasy football. Does where a player gets drafted, their draft capital, actually predict how well they'll do in the NFL, particularly running backs? It's a debate that fuels so many draft strategies, and probably a few arguments too.
Oh, absolutely. It's a constant discussion. And for this deep dive, which is part of our Does It Matter series, we're trying to move past just, gut feelings. We're looking at a study here that was pretty rigorous. It examined the top 50 fantasy running backs using PPR scoring.
Points per reception, right, where catches count extra.
Exactly. And they did this for every season since 2003. So a lot of data. And a key thing for the method, undrafted free agents. They were assigned a draft pick value, basically the highest pick number that year, +1.
Okay, right, to keep the data clean and comparable across the board. Makes sense. So let's unpack this then. Our mission here is pretty clear. Is there a real statistical link between how early a running back is drafted and becoming an elite fantasy producer? And maybe even more importantly, can we find a specific draft spot, a threshold that really matters for your understanding for how you scout these guys?
Yeah, what's interesting is how they focused it. Just those top 50 running backs each year. The researchers called it a happy medium. They compared the very best, the top tier, against, let's call them the bottom 10 RBs ranked 41st to 50th.
I see. So not getting bogged down by guys who barely played.
Precisely. It let them look for clear, actionable trends without too much noise in the data.
So we're not just working off hunches. This is data-driven. And you said the trends, they kind of show up pretty quickly.
They really do. When you look at the initial averages chart from the study, just grouping those top 50 finishers, it becomes pretty evident. Players picked earlier, higher draft capital, they consistently pop up more often among the top fantasy running backs. There's a pattern right away, a very strong pattern. To put a number on it, think about this. In 20 out of the 21 seasons since 2003, that's 95.2% of the time, the top 10 fantasy running backs had equal or higher average draft capital compared to the guys finishing, say, 31st to 50th.
That really suggests draft position plays a significant role.
It strongly indicates it, yeah. A very clear initial correlation.
But this study didn't just stop at higher is better. They tried to find an actual draft range, right? Using something called a differences chart. How'd they narrow that down?
Right, they wanted to pinpoint it.
Do you want to start dominating your drafts? At BrainyBallers.com, we've researched every metric under the sun for you to find which ones are best linked to fantasy points. You can access hundreds of metrics to sharpen your scouting abilities so you know which metrics matter and which are just noise. Stop guessing on which thresholds to look for within each metric. Big numbers can be misleading or irrelevant. Our Ultimate Athlete Blueprints reveal essential scouting metrics, their importance, and benchmarks within each metric that help predict a player's probability of being a success or bust. Elevate your scouting ability with Brainy Ballers Ultimate Athlete Blueprints today. Click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
So they started testing various thresholds. Like, what if we look at pick 70 and higher? And initially, that 70th overall pick looked like a pretty strong contender for predicting success.
How so? What did the numbers show there?
Well, they compared those bottom 10 guys, RBs 4150, with the top 10 RBs. For the bottom group, only about 37.5% were drafted 70th or higher. But for the elite top 10 group, that number jumped way up to almost 72%, 71.9% to be exact. A clear 34.4% increase. It showed that the 70th pick was definitely a significant indicator.
So 70 looked good, but you mentioned they pushed it further. They didn't just settle on that. How did they find the real sweet spot?
They got meticulous. Basically ran comparisons across tons of different thresholds, building this dynamic model. It was like fine-tuning the focus. And while 70 was good, the actual statistical tipping point, it settled around the 95th overall pick.
The 95th pick, so late third round.
Around there, yeah. That seems to be the key inflection point. If a running back is drafted at pick 95 or higher, their odds of hitting that top 10 fantasy finish increase substantially. Below that, the pool of guys who become top producers just gets way, way deeper. The hit rate drops off. And this isn't just a slight trend, it's robust. It's backed by a strong statistical correlation, a Pearson value of negative 0.234.
Okay, negative 0.234. Break that down for us. Negative means?
Negative just means it's an inverse relationship. If the draft pick number gets higher, meaning the player is drafted later, the likelihood of a top 10 fantasy finish gets lower.
Gotcha. Higher pick number, lower chance of elite success. Makes sense. And the 0.234 part?
That number signifies the strength of the link. 0.234 indicates it's statistically significant. And interestingly, it's actually more pronounced, a stronger link, than what similar studies show for quarterback draft capital.
Wow. So draft position matters even more for running backs than QBs, statistically speaking.
That's what this data suggests, yes. Really highlights how critical that early draft investment seems to be for running back outcomes, at least in fantasy terms.
So, okay, bringing it all together, what does this mean for you, the listener, for your next fantasy draft, or even just how you watch the NFL and think about player development? You've got this pretty clear statistical benchmark now for running backs. That 95th pick seems key. Do you lean hard into that? Prioritize those higher picks, knowing the stats back it up? Or, do you still hold out hope for finding those diamonds in the rough, those late round gems, even knowing the odds might be tougher? Something for you to chew on as you think about draft capital and what it really means for NFL success. That's a deep dive for you.